After a bunch of iterations, I finally developed a process for making 3D printed tooling for forming sheet metal parts. The tools themselves are pretty difficult to make geometries, which is well suited to 3D printing, and they only take a few hours to print. The results are getting really quite good, with the parts being what I would consider close to production quality. This is a really great process if there's some parts you want to make that would be difficult to do with normal bending, and you want to make maybe a few hundred or 1,000 of them. So between this and my previous video, hopefully there's enough information that you can replicate these results on whatever part you want to make. I'm really stoked by these forming tools. They work well, much better than I expected them to work. And that's a little bit due to some upgrades. So I have this fancy new tool with a rotary action on it, but it's almost entirely due to basically me designing them right. And it turns out in the previous design, I did the opposite of that. I designed them wrong. I thought that I had designed them right. That's usually the case. And by designing it right, I mean leaving space for the metal in the tool. So the previous tools didn't actually have any clearance. These basically snap together and there's no play at all. Side to side, front to back. And you might be thinking, well, that was really stupid. Why would you do that? I didn't mean to. The 3D design software that I'm using has this feature called adaptivity, and basically what it means is that when you change one part, it'll change another part. In order to make clearance, I took this part and I thickened it by the thickness of the sheet metal. And then I took this top form and derived it from that by subtracting it from that thickened geometry. But I wanted to use this to print, so I unthickened it, and thanks to the adaptivity, it widened this to still fit, which normally it's great when the CAD system does that for you, but not great in my case. And I didn't actually realize that I had established that link in that way. Every tool I made had this problem. The way I discovered this is I was thinking about how the tool cracking apart just didn't really add up, because most of the forces should be nominally in compression. The majority of the forming is done by this upper tool, which you push through the slot with a lot of force. And in order to bend the material this way, it's pushing that way on the part. So it's squeezing this part down as tightly as it can. And the upper part is mostly there to provide the force to bend it around this feature. There's some amount of bending that happens around the outer form. It should again be mostly in compression. It's surprising to me that this would break the tool apart. And so I looked in the CAD, there was no clearance, and I went and checked my tools, and no clearance, and that explains a lot. So what would happen is we take the steel and we try to shove it into the hole with up to 20 tons of force. Something's got to give, and it wasn't the steel. Trying to form this part was kind of like trying to put your pants on after 4 Thanksgivings in a row with your parents, your in-laws, your friends, and your coworkers. You can try, but something's probably going to split apart, and it's probably going to be your pants. So basically just design it with clearance and everything is great. My previous tool design couldn't form 90-degree corners because it was a straight pull tool. It comes straight down on the part, and it at best can push the material to 90 degrees, and then the metal always has spring back. So you'll push it to 90 and it'll spring out to some other angle. You can see in my previous video an explanation for this if you're interested. And by giving this tool an action, basically moving parts beyond a straight pull, I'm able to bend the part beyond 90 degrees. So if I push these down, you can see that they're forming a beyond 90 degree angle. And so the form that I'm using has, I believe, 3 degrees of clearance, maybe 4. You shouldn't actually need that much for this thickness of material, but I went a little overboard to make sure that I absolutely formed at least a 90-degree angle. And so these wrap around the part and form the material around it, giving me a final 90-degree bend. So the other big upgrade is that it now can bend 90-degree corners, and I got rid of those stupid springs on that tool, which never seemed to work right, and the springs would never stay glued. So the reason I needed the springs before was to compress the top of the part so that it would be flat. This is a example of what it looks like if you don't have the springs. The top is extremely not flat. And that's because we're bending right next to this hole, and there's not enough material here to bear the stress, and it just bends up. I have some improvement with one spring arrangement, and then this is what it was looking like with the springs, which was a lot better, but it's still not totally flat. With the new action die, the top is totally flat. This looks like a production part, aside from my sort of plasma cut edges. This is really, really good. So the way that it achieves this is it uses the part as the spring, which is really cool and really elegant. So in order to bend the part, we push on this top form, which pushes through the part, and then into the dies. It pushes on the inner corner of the die, which rotates up and folds up the edge on both sides symmetrically. In order to bend the flange up, we have to push through the part. There's no way to bend it without pressing down on top of the part, so you automatically are getting that pressure. Another neat thing you can do, say I wasn't getting it flat enough and I wanted to get more compression, I can vary the friction because I get both the force required to bend the flanges up plus the friction on these sliding joints. So that's another knob you can turn to get more pressure if you need it. I actually had the opposite problem where I had too much friction. So this rigid material is not the lowest friction, especially when you press on it. It was getting to the point where I was actually, I guess, galling the material, where it was pulling out little chunks of material from the compression. And I fixed it by putting a layer of aluminum tape, which has really excellent frictional properties on plastic. After I put that on, there's no problems. It just turned without any issue. All right, let's see if we can convert that success into another success. This is a more complicated tool. It's inspired by the drip tray on a Breville espresso machine. I think it's a cool part, and I want to see if I can produce something like that because it's a good real world part. And so I have this tool, which basically a bunch of the previous tool arrayed out, and I checked 10 times. There's definitely clearance. So let's see if we can form a grating using this. The forming looks really quite good. There's one obvious imperfection here along this back edge. I think I basically just didn't have enough material. There's definitely some scratching of the surface, and it looks like there was a bit of slag from the plasma cutter that formed a really sharp burred edge, which did a lot of that. I should have deburred the bottom. Based on how this looks, I have a feeling I'm not going to be able to get this off of here, but let's give it a try. That was a huge pain in the butt. The part looks pretty darn good, I have to say. I scratched it all up and bent it trying to get it off the form. If I could get this to come off the form, it would be very nice. I'm gonna see if I can flatten it out. I'm gonna put it back in here and give it a smash with the press. I'm also gonna take this messed up form that I just cracked trying to get the part off. I'm gonna machine this down so I only have the radii left and press with that and see how that does. I machined down the top of the upper die so that there's really only the fillet part left, and we can hopefully use this to smash this no longer flat, messed up from my removal part, mostly flat. Remember, there's that spring back, so I'm not going to be able to get it totally flat no matter how hard I press, but hopefully I can get it, call it good enough for this test. This part cleaned up surprisingly well. It's now very flat, and I just gave it a little bit of a rub with some Scotch-Brite to remove some of the minor scratching. I think this part really wants to be done in 2 passes. One with a much smaller, sharper draft angle part to initially form the holes, and then coming back with basically the tool that I used at the end to flatten it out. I made a new tool. This is the first half of the pressing operation, so it only begins to form the features, but it doesn't attempt to form the fillet. And then I can use the other tool that I machined down previously to try to form the fillet. So press with this, and hopefully it'll work. This weird blue resin it's called draft, and it's super fast. This form took, I think, about an hour, maybe 55 minutes. It's called draft because it prints really quickly, and the trade-off is it doesn't have as much detail as other materials. But we're forming steel here, and the steel forms the average of whatever surface is here, so I don't think the surface finish will matter so long as the material can take it. And as with any success, I went ahead and printed 3 forms presumptuously, assuming that this will work. But I might actually hold off and reserve a couple of these because I have another part printing, which is a much more aggressive all-in-one tool, which has the fillet in this, and I think the parts will come off it. So we'll give this a shot, and then we'll make a call on if we want to hit 3 of them or if we want to wait and try the other tool. These turned out great. I made 2 of them because the first one wasn't quite aligned inside the machine. These tools don't really have great alignment features on them. So the second one I was a bit more careful to align, and it's really, really good. It's super flat. I didn't really have any trouble getting out of the tool. There's a little bit of a pinch, but I was able to pop it out with a little plastic scraper. Everything's very symmetric. There's no cracking in the steel. This is almost a production part. The only thing, like the previous ones, that makes it not production is honestly just the fact that you can see some plasma cut edges. If I clean those up, I think this part would be something you could put into a product. I'm going to make a tool that does them all in one and see if I can do it in 2 steps instead of 1 step, because why do in 2 steps today what you can do in 1 step tomorrow? Well, it's still today, so I guess I'm gonna do today in 1 step what I did today in 2 steps. This is the hopefully final form for this press. It's just printed in a regular gray material, and it turned out really nicely. You can see the geometry has an aggressive taper, which should spread the material apart, and then the fillet, which should form that nice rounded shape at the end. So we're gonna load this up and see if we can form a nice part, and then, crucially, get it off without destroying it. So let's give it a shot. So it looks like it mostly worked. It has the messed up edge, like one of the earlier presses, and I don't know if that is because the press was angled. I had to reseat it, and I also undersized these hole forming tools, so those aren't fully formed. But other than that, it pressed pretty well. It took a little bit of prying to get off the tool, but it wasn't stuck on there like it was before. I would want to maybe optimize this a bit more if I was going to try to make a ton of them. But overall, I think you can do this in 1 step, although qualitatively, they do seem to come out better when you do it in 2 steps. Of course, I only have 1 sample here, so this could just be a bad part. But I think this is a good place to end it. It's been really satisfying to see this process go from making parts that are kind of like, I guess it sort of worked, to parts that make you say, wow, that's a really nice part. I am looking forward to using this in some future projects. You might be wondering why you would print your tools instead of machining them, which should give you a better result. The basic answer is more people have access to 3D printers than they have machining centers, and so if they want a tool, they now have the means to make it, which is awesome. The other advantage is that 3D printing can make a tool that's very complex, very quickly, and very cheaply, which is definitely not the case for normal machining. If you need to only make a few hundred or 1,000 of something, this might be the right process for your application. As always, I build stuff all the time, so if you like what you see, you should follow me, and hopefully there's more goodness coming down the pipe. That's all I got. Thanks.